The Ultimate Universe is finally at its end. Again. Or is it? The Maker has recreated the Ultimate Universe, but how and why is the question. He has kidnapped this universe's Reed Richards to force him to build some sort of time machine, and he kidnapped Howard Stark to make him work on it. He is preventing people from coming from the future to come back and kill him and correct the timeline. Today we're at the finale of this series, known as Ultimate Invasion issue number 4. We are Comicstorian. We make audio dramas of your favorite comic books so you know what to add to your collection. Let's get into the book. Howard Stark leans down, continuing to work. Behind him, Reed Richards in a metal face mask watches. "I have a secret," he says quietly, and Howard looks up from his work as Reed explains that he knows a great many of the Maker's secrets, but he has never gotten anyone to share it with. "That's great. Can you hand me the..." Howard begins, but Reed is already handing him the tool that he requires, and Howard nods, finishing up. He leans back, taking off his goggles, and he looks at the Immortus engine that he has finished. "Okay, that's as good as it's going to get. It should hold. I hope it holds," he says, turning back to Reed, asking him what kind of secrets he knows. "The best kind of secrets. The sins that the Great Maker holds deep in his heart," Reed says, leaning forward, whispering to Howard that he knows where the Maker is from. "I know how he made the world as it is now. I've seen it with my own eyes," he says, and Howard nods again, explaining that he wants to hear all about it, but first he needs to finish. "And when this is done, I'll have all the time in the world." He puts his goggles back down and eventually turns to Reed, asking how long they have been in this chamber. How long have they been working on the Immortus engine? But Reed shakes his head. "You're in a temple of abstract time, Howard. Exactly how does one count without constants?" "I gave up marking days in the passing of time long ago," Reed explains, and he goes on to tell him that he has been trapped with the Maker for a long time, that the Maker hates him on every level, which is why he is forced to work and wear this metal mask. "I can help you escape," Howard finally tells him, but Reed shakes his head. "Oh, Howard, don't you understand? One can't escape from who they truly are," Reed whispers. Another week passes and Howard and Reed have finally finished their work. As Howard steps into the Iron Man suit, he asks if Reed is ready. Reed checks his hologram suit one last time before confirming, and Howard thanks him, taking the Immortus engine and nodding. "I'll see you on the other side." In his suit of armor, Howard walks through the city until he reaches the Maker. He holds up the small case that holds the Immortus engine. "You've built it. The machine that will enable me to do all the things I've already done. A way to make this world into the wonder that it is now," Maker says, but Howard shakes his head, explaining that they merely rebuilt the machine that had already been built, but made a few improvements. But the Maker disagrees. "Or maybe I will take this to a previous me, and I will copy it. Make a better version of my own." Meanwhile, Reed has arrived at the city's nerve center. He places the device on the power source, activating it. In the Maker's chambers, Howard reaches for the device, wondering if he should pick it up and destroy it so that the Maker can never abuse its power. "My dear Howard, don't be rash. We have a monster from the future that we have to kill," the Maker tells him, but Howard disagrees, admitting that both the man in the future and the Maker are monsters. "I'm so tired of choosing between which monster is more acceptable," Howard says with a sigh, when suddenly the device that Reed placed is activated, and the city's power begins to fluctuate. "What have you done?" the Maker asks, staring at the flashing red warning lights. "I've interrupted the city's mainframe, dropped the temporal shield. I opened the doors to let the wolves in, everyone hunting you from the future. Portals begin to open up, and the armies of futuristic soldiers come streaming through, led by a green-armored Kang. The Maker raises his arms, ordering the children of tomorrow to defend their city, and the two armies of super beings clash together. The Maker then whirls on Howard. "I could see the wheels turning. You've decided to play your own game, haven't you?" the Maker says, his arms outstretched, going further and further to catch Howard, who shakes his head. "This isn't a game. You need to be stopped." The Maker glares at him. "Stopped! I'm just getting started. You're just an ignorant, ungrateful child, rejecting your environment. Like the world you exist in just happened." Howard leaps into the air, his jets taking him through the battle. Future warriors having now reached them, the Maker uses his stretched limbs and visor to fight them off, blasting the warriors away. "Bring me Kang!" he bellows in anger. A short distance away, Kang is knocking aside the Tomorrow people with powerful blasts, and the two mighty warlords rush at each other. I have waited too long for this moment, Kang shouts as the two of them finally clash, with Howard continuing his own battle and the future warriors overwhelming him, knocking him away. He tumbles through the city, knocking the Immortus engine to the ground. As he lays stunned, the city begins to count down until another power fluctuation. Meanwhile, Kang slams the Maker into the ground, smashing his visor, revealing his shattered head. He steps away as the Maker gets to his feet, smiling. Thank you for that. Pain clarifies, and I suddenly remember. I remember you, he says. Meanwhile, in the far future, the Maker steps through the Immortus engine and is met by Kang for the first time. The Maker looks up at the future ruler. I had to know. I have built my kingdom. I have remade my world. And I had to know if the world would endure. This is as far as I could go, where the future ends. Where am I? When am I? The Maker asks the future ruler, and Kang looks back at him. You are here, now, as you are always going to be. You are my Maker, and what you witness now is my origin. Kang tells him, raising his gauntleted hand and firing a repulsor blast at the Maker. It's with that he burns away part of his head, and we see how the Maker took his injury. But now we go back to the current day, the battle between the Maker and Kang. The Maker moves to fight Kang, but both warriors turn as Howard floats above them, his armor now powered by the Immortus engine. I'm gonna put an end to this, he growls, the engine overloading and a powerful blast ripping through the city, knocking away both armies. Time passes. The city is almost destroyed. Howard pulls himself from his armor, struggling across the battlefield until he comes to the body of Kang. He reaches down, pulling the armored helmet from the man's face, but he is shocked by what he discovers falling back. Outside the city, everyone looks up in shock as the city once again goes into its dormant state, locking itself away from the outside world. Reed steps through the crowd, carrying the second Immortus engine with him, refusing to look back. Meanwhile, over in the Maker's castle, the ruling elite of the world have gathered. They question what they should do next without the Maker's guidance. The city will be sealed for the next 24 months, which means they have 2 years to try and hold the world together or tear it apart. Captain Britain steps forward, pointing out that America has no leader, that they must pick someone to run it, but magic stands up. Or we could just split it, she suggests. The other elites look at each other in surprise, knowing that this wouldn't have been what the Maker would have wanted. Shall we vote? The Hulk finally asks. Later, Reed Richards is standing in Stark Tower, speaking with the son of Howard Stark, Tony. He gave this to you? Tony asks, looking down at the Immortus engine and a note from his father. The world is ending, Anthony. The future colliding with now. Temporal kings were being overthrown, and multiversal evils are being undone. But bringing these things to you was my important task. Reed says, reading the letter, and he explains to Tony that Howard believed that Tony would know what to do. Tony pondered for a moment before looking down at the note once more, and finally he looks up at Reed. I'm gonna need a suit. What are you going to call yourself? Iron Man, after your father? No. He's Iron Man. For now, I'll just be Iron Lad. At least until I've earned a better name, Tony states, revealing his armor that resembles the future ruler known as Kang. As Tony and Reed begin to get to work, based on Howard's note, Tony goes to find something that the Maker missed when he came to this world. The two of them head north, and they find something lost in the ice. A hero, lost in time, behind a star-spangled banner. The Ultimate Universe is now ready and primed. We're getting a new Ultimate Spider-Man and a new Ultimate Avengers, but for now, our story is concluded. Ultimate Invasion is at the ending. The Ultimate Universe is only beginning.